Al Jazeera podcasts.
Today, the drone revolution plays out in Pakistan.
Reports of two explosive-laden drones that were intercepted in Islamabad. One drone fell near Faizabad while another landed in the I-9 sector. The drones were possibly launched from Afghanistan, is what reports are suggesting.
Low-cost drones have shaped wars from Russia and Ukraine to Israel and Iran. As drones reach Pakistan's biggest cities, what do these attacks reveal about the next era of war? I'm Malika Bilal, and this is The Take. Hey everyone. With tensions escalating between Pakistan and Afghanistan, we're getting the view from Islamabad today, and we'll check in with a guest from Afghanistan in a future episode. So as you're watching, let us know what questions you have about what you're seeing and what you want us to cover next. If you're listening on a podcast app, leave us a review telling us where you're listening from and rate us. It helps other people find the show.
Hi Malika, my name is Abid. I'm the Pakistan correspondent in Islamabad. I've been working with Al Jazeera for the last 3 years.
Abid, welcome back to The Take. Now, a day before war broke out in Iran, Pakistan declared its own open war with Afghanistan and launched airstrikes on Kabul, Kandahar, and Paktia early on Friday, February 27th. And things have only escalated from there. So we're speaking on Wednesday, March 18th, when the latest headlines have Afghanistan accusing Pakistan of killing at least 400 people in a strike on a hospital, something that Pakistan denies responsibility for. So, Abid, bring us up to speed here. What has life been like from your vantage point in Islamabad?
Thank you so much for having me on The Take once again. First of all, I would like to present this latest update from Pakistan. Information Minister Ataullah Taher posted a message on his social media saying that Pakistan is going to pause the attacks, the operation which have been going on against Afghanistan since last month. And what he said was, on the eve of this auspicious moment of Eid, we are going to pause it from tonight, 18th March, till 23rd of March, which is next Monday. And Information Minister Taher said that we will not be carrying out any attacks in Afghanistan. And this particular request also came from the governments of Turkey, Qatar, and Saudi Arabia. Pakistan has also added in the statement on Information Minister Taher, he said that as long as we do not get any attacks from Afghanistan, be it in shape of drones or any other thing that happen, Pakistan is going to keep a pause on the fighting at least for next 4 or 5 days.
Interesting. So you're saying the request came to Pakistan to halt the fighting?
To halt the fighting for next few days, indeed, as per Information Minister.
Okay, so before this announcement, did you feel that Pakistan was at war?
Look, this is something which has to be really understood by the person who lives in the country. Number one, first and foremost, the people who are facing the direct brunt of this war that has been going on between Pakistan and Afghanistan are people in the province of Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, the northwestern province. People who are right next to the border, they are the one facing brunt from both sides, frankly speaking, like Pakistan attacking on Afghanistan. So people living in Afghanistan's border and, Paktia, Kunar, places like that. And on Pakistan's side, we have people living in the tribal districts, which are right next to the border. They are the ones which have been facing, and there have been stories where people have been trying to find shelters. So that's very much there. But in urban centers, especially on the 13th of March, when we had these drones coming in, there has been this palpable change among people. Like there has been conversation. Look, it has to be understood that life in general in Pakistan at large and in Islamabad in particular, where I live these days, is perfectly normal. There is no panic. There is no concern. People are doing their Eid shopping. People are going out and about. But when you talk to people, there is a realization that there is a massive, a situation is cooking up in the region right now, as we can see with the Iran war, which is happening right next to us, as well as the Afghan war, as well as the fuel crisis happening, the inflation fear that were going on because of Iran war. Things generally feel okay, but it's on the back of everybody's mind.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned the 13th of March, so let's talk about what happened, because as part of this rapidly developing breakdown in relations between these neighbors, Pakistan and Afghanistan, you've been reporting on one of the many fronts, drone strikes across Pakistan. So take us into what happened and where these drones have been hitting.
So these drone attacks, which came on March 13, as we've been talking about this, the relationship between two countries have been deteriorating for a long time, and they have been on downward slope. But on March 13, there was a group called ACLED. They is a US-based group which combines statistics. According to them, there were 5 different drone strikes, drone basically which came inside Pakistani territory, including 2 in Rawalpindi, where we live. In fact, I was here and I was trying to track it down. It came around the iftar time. It's a month of Ramadan, the holy month of Ramadan. So as the iftar was supposed to end, that's when the news emerged of these drones. And I spoke to people who overheard these drones because they have like this small, the buzzing sound going on. And immediately we could hear jets flying in the air. And that's what really created that panic among people. They were all curious what is going on. And I got message about that. Where is this drone coming from? Is this something about Iran? Is this something from Afghanistan? So lots of rumors mill obviously came up. And soon enough, in around 30 minutes, 45 minutes, we were able to see footage of some of these drones which were shot down. And the statement from the ISPR called them locally produced and rudimentary. But the main point, when I spoke to experts, analysts about it, they said it's not about the sophistication or the complexity of the drone itself. The mere fact that they were in Islamabad or Rawalpindi or they were part of urban centers, that's what the escalation is. That basically opens up a completely new front for Pakistan to be careful of.
Okay, so a lot to unpack there. First of all, you mentioned that they were intercepted or shot down. Was anyone hurt?
In Quetta, we have heard that there were children actually who were hurt. In Rawalpindi, there were one person who was reportedly hurt, but apart from that, there were no other major injuries or anybody was brought in for that.
Okay, and then the second question, probably the biggest one, is who does the Pakistani government say is responsible?
Oh, Pakistan government did not have to say anything because Afghan Taliban, the government from them, they actually released a statement from Zabihullah Mujahid, the Afghan spokesperson. He said that we have launched attacks via drone to Pakistani army's military station, the military infrastructure. And Pakistani government, by the counter, said that these claims made by the Afghan government are completely wrong. They are fake. They're propaganda, saying that there has been no damage, there has been no destruction from those drones, and we were able to successfully intercept them and bring them down.
I see. So the group that is culpable for launching the drones, that's known, and that is the Afghan Taliban.
Yes. The one which came on March 13.
Okay. So we know that Pakistan's president, Asif Ali Zardari, has said these attacks crossed a red line by targeting civilians. And the military has described these drones, as you mentioned earlier, as rudimentary and locally produced. What do you think they mean by that? And why does that matter?
That's an important question to understand. Look, something which I have to add definitely over here is that these questions that we're talking about drone is in context of what happened on March 13 because there were several drones which came, which is why it became a thing. We have been trying to track it down, which is why we did a story on Al Jazeera on the website as well. But drones have been used in on Pakistani soil by other armed groups, which Pakistan accuses Afghan Taliban of sheltering them over there, including Pakistani Taliban, as I mentioned. These drones that we're talking about, they do not have any explosives on it, so to speak. They basically itself come and strike it. But what they also add, that it is extremely easy to also add on these layers to make it more lethal, to make it more dangerous. One of the analysts that I spoke to, he has worked extensively on drone warfare. And I've quoted in my story, Abdul Basit, what he said was, he gave example of Afghan Taliban when they were fighting against the American forces between, after 9/11, 2001, when the operation started. They were able to innovate. And that's the point he made, that, they were using small regular items and were able to improvise explosive device, IEDs. They were able to change that, and they were able to quickly convert it and make it more lethal and make it more dangerous using, substance like ammonia nitrate. And that can cause more damage. So that shows that these guys have the capacity, the skill to quickly adapt something like this and make it more dangerous. And that's what these analysts in my story were also highlighting, that it's not about the fact that what you got right now is basic. It's the potential of it turning it into significantly more dangerous, more more riskier, more lethal. And that's the biggest fear that we have. What Afghanistan brings to the table is something different, completely new, modern warfare. And we have seen example of Ukraine, Russia, or Iran right now, where large militaries, powerful militaries like US or Israel, they are facing incredible difficulties to stop something like Shahid drones of Iran. And that's kind of a model that we in Pakistan, we have been trying to speak to security official personnel, that how are they preparing for that eventuality if it does come to it?
Abid, you mentioned the TTP. So let's explain their status with Pakistan, because Pakistan has long accused the Afghan Taliban, the government in Afghanistan right now, of supporting or sheltering armed groups like Taliban Pakistan, or the TTP. The Taliban deny that claim, and in turn, they accuse Islamabad of carrying out strikes that have killed civilians inside of Afghanistan. So walk us through this tangled web that has been weaved. What should we know about the TTP, the Afghan Taliban, and Pakistan?
I'll try to keep it as brief as possible, because that's essentially going into something which has been going for close to 20 years now. TTP, or Pakistani Taliban, they were formed in 2007. That's 6 years after the war, so-called war on terror started after the American invasion in Afghanistan. And the people who were part of Pakistan Taliban, they provided shelter to Afghanistan Taliban who came to Pakistan to seek refuge. And they have these very close ties. They have almost considered ideological twins with them. They have different set of demands. They basically do not believe in due line. And so that has been their battle against the Pakistani state since 2007 onwards. And now after Afghan Taliban took over in August 2021, that's when Pakistan say that Afghanistan government, they are providing shelter to these armed groups, including the TTP, including the leadership, and providing them safe havens. From then, they can do these cross-border attacks into Pakistan. And that really is the main fundamental issue that Pakistan have had. In year 2025, and this is something which is very important to understand, in year 2025, Pakistan tried, in diplomatic manners, in bilateral conversations, they involve multilateral partners. For instance, what I mentioned earlier, that Qatar, Saudi Arabia, Turkey, and China in particular, they have all really tried to get together and speak to Afghan Taliban and present this particular point of view. But Afghan Taliban government consistently refuses to acknowledge that they have any sort of these armed groups present on this territory, or that they're providing any safe havens to them. And that really becomes the issue. Something for Pakistan, which we have to acknowledge in the history, is Pakistan is seen as a patron of Afghan Taliban for a long time, since the first government in 1996. But in the last 4 or 5 years, what is happening is that attacks in Pakistan have increased significantly. In the last 2 years, 2024 and 2025, we have had more than 2,000 casualties every year, which have been more than since last 10 years. The figure has been higher since 2015. So Pakistan's argument is that we have had enough of our soldiers, our security personnel, our civilians are being targeted. And these conversations cannot go on. So last year, we saw several diplomatic approaches being made in Pakistan, in Afghanistan, in China, in Turkey, in Qatar. And yet, at least as far as Pakistan is concerned, these attacks have not stopped. We have been seeing attacks from TTP in January and February. And that has basically led government to decide, the Pakistani government to decide that it's time for, quote unquote, an open war against them.
Okay, you mentioned the Durand Line. And of course, that name, Durand, is attributed to a British diplomat, as most things do trace back to the British, right? It's the border that is internationally recognized between Pakistan and Afghanistan, but Afghanistan disputes it, right?
Indeed, that's the case.
So that only complicates the matter. And we know these attacks are taking a toll. You just touched on that. We know that civilians have been killed, thousands of people have been displaced, and cross-border strikes are continuing on both sides. So What toll does this actually take on the people who live on the border on either side? Because you touched on it earlier that they're the ones who feel this the most, not the people in Islamabad, for instance.
See, this is really gets to the main issue here. Like, unfortunately, we live in urban centers where we do not necessarily see these people. They almost are in their, in our peripheries. They seem as almost collateral. It's very easy for Pakistan to come out and say that, we have killed X number of people. Like, in fact, Information Minister Sattar, in his latest statement, which I just mentioned earlier, he also gave a figure. In his set, he basically said, we have killed since the start of the operation 707 Taliban, Afghan Taliban activists, their personnel. There is no way to confirm or deny that. Like, what's the figure? How are we doing this? How are we making this calculation? On a couple of days ago, we saw the Pakistani attack in Kabul city, main Kabul city, in which we ended up hitting an area which we are claiming was part of Phoenix camp, which was a weapons depot left by the Americans when they were in Afghanistan. But subsequently, after they had left, among that compound, as we have seen from visual evidence from the pictures, there were several buildings. And one of the largest buildings was a hospital, which has been working as a hospital for the past 6-7 years. In fact, Al Jazeera itself made a documentary on that hospital. So basically, these kind of tolls, when it happens, it becomes, for both the governments, obviously, it becomes a matter of narrative, a matter of how to win a war. But the cost of it is really, really borne by the poor, innocent people on both sides. And what is even worse is that, look, Pakistan and Afghanistan are going to be prisoners of geography. They are right next to each other. They will continue to remain next to each other. But with these attacks that are happening, that are taking place, and the narrative which is being built around them in the mainstream media or in social media otherwise, that is only going to fuel more hatred, more differences between the public of the two countries. And you need to understand that, the Pakistani border with Afghanistan, especially the one in Pakhtunkhwa, close to Peshawar, that is being used by people from both countries. It's a regular trade route. It's a regular route for where people from Afghanistan would come to Pakistan for treatment, for medical aid, for studies, for lots of things. And people from Pakistan would go for trade. So this is, people-to-people contact that has been going on for centuries, really. But these attacks that are going place, these people are genuinely going to face the brunt the most, like far more than people who are sitting in, in Pakistan big city like Karachi or Islamabad or even Kabul for that matter, which now has been seeing attacks. But previously, attacks were only centered around the area which are close to the border.
Thank you for that context, Abid. I think it's important to note that, especially as, members of the media, ourselves included, often we'll talk to people in those big cities because the connection is easier and it is easier to get in touch with someone who can explain it. So I appreciate that nuance. I want to end talking about something that we touched on at the beginning of this conversation, and that is that all of this that we've been talking about is unfolding at the same time that the war, the U.S.-Israeli war on Iran and Iran's retaliation, is also unfolding and escalating around the region. But how is the U.S.-Israeli war in Iran resonating in Pakistan?
Look, the Iran war that has been taking place since February 28th that we have seen several protests in Pakistan in favor of Iran. And again, Iran is our neighbor, our brotherly country, and we have long-standing ties with the country as well. And obviously, what is going on through the attacks by the US and Israel, general public sentiment is very much in favor of Iran. Having said that, Iran's retaliation, which has been targeting the Gulf countries, which are also all Muslim, including Saudi Arabia, along with whom Pakistan has one of the closest ties, arguably I may say perhaps the closest ties along with China. We also have a defense agreement with them. And yet, I have to say this, that, during the reporting about it, reading about it, speaking to people about it, Pakistan is walking on a really tight rope, but so far it is doing a phenomenal job when it comes to diplomatically keeping these channels open. Pakistan has been consistently talking to Iranian leadership, including their president, including their foreign minister Abbas Araghchi, the president Masoud Pezeshkian, as well as Pakistan has been constantly in touch with the Middle Eastern countries, particularly Saudi Arabia. So constantly, Pakistan is playing this significant role diplomatically to, try and keep mediation, the diplomatic avenue open, channels open to ensure that this war, what is happening, does not escalate. Right now, we have seen that Middle Eastern countries have not retaliated, so to speak. They have still, bearing the brunt of the missile and the drone attacks from Iran, and they have not retaliated. And Pakistan has been advising both Iran as well as the GCC countries to try and keep talking and try to lower down the temperature. And that's a very key role that the country is playing. And when it comes to the public, the population, look, Pakistan has 20-25% Shia population and rest of them are Sunni. But overarching country has an extremely pro-Iran and supporting sentiment, considering the way the war was initiated and launched and prosecuted by US and Israel against Iran. The way the Iranian Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei was killed. He has a massive following in the Shia world. So that way, Pakistani public is completely in favor and by and large, we can see is supporting Iran.